Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome, new and old viewers, to the Bakery Podcast. If this is your first time viewing or listening, let me give you some intel. And no, before you ask, we are not making bread. The Bakery is a show in which I invite some of the biggest personalities, ranging from players, coaches, managers and content creators, to talk their career, their life, their interests and more. The intent is to give you, the listener, the opportunity to have some insight into what the ever-changing ecosystem of esports really entails. If you like competitive gaming, I promise you're going to like it here. Now, if you prefer to catch your podcast on the go, search the Bakery Podcast on Apple Music, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and hit the follow button to never miss an upload. Without further ado, let's get into today's show.
Baby.
That's my little brother's room.
Spider-Man sheets. I love it.
It's looking good. It's looking good. Sheets are looking real good. Good afternoon, good evening, guys, depending on where you're tuning in from, and welcome to tonight's episode of the Bakery Podcast. Now, as you can see, I am joined by Mr. Miyagi and the Karate Kid, aka World Champions, Dallas Empire head coach Rambo Ray, and the CDL MVP, multi-FPS god Shotzzy. How are you two? How are you feeling today, guys?
Good.
Good, man. We're good.
Yeah, it's good to hear. Has the wind settled in?
Kind of. I'm sure it's settled in for Ant a lot more than it is for me.
Yeah. Ant, for yourself, did it take a while to kind of feel real? I mean, obviously, with it being your first year in Call of Duty and stuff.
For some reason, like, the same thing happened to Champs at Halo. Like, we won it, and then I didn't even, like, just sit there and think about it for a second until, like, you know, a couple months. Like, it's kind of the same thing. We won it, and, like, I haven't just sat there and just, like, thought about it, to be honest. I feel like it will sneak in later in the months, but
yeah.
I feel like for me, once I get the ring on my finger, it'll be real, you know, because I've had my few chances as a player to get one, never got it, and my nickname at Sledgehammer Games was No Rings Ray. That's what people call me there. So
wow.
I'm gonna have a picture and just like send it to everyone that would call me No Rings Ray. There, you know, that's what I get.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, what was it like seeing all the hard work and kind of hours that you guys have put in amount to, you know, what is, you know, the greatest reward you can find in Call of Duty?
Go ahead.
That was one of the things that was like the most satisfying was just like putting in so much hours and just like studying teams, and for that to pay off and like us just winning champs in general, beating FaZe twice, like, which is like the most satisfying feeling, which just, you know, just what was I saying?
Take your time. You're good. Take your time.
Was just like, just learning, just studying. Basically, just the hard work that we put in was just satisfying, and it all paid off in the end, basically.
Yeah. We prep for FaZe. I mean, we are very adamant about preparing for a team we're going to play against first off. So like our prep the first week was really looking at Florida and Toronto gameplay. We kind of figured we would play these two teams over London. And it came down to like Toronto winning, and we had basically a lot of kind of recent matches, at least from was it the last year we played them in the semifinal. So we had good VOD, and we felt like the veto system for Under and like the way to veto was going to be basically the same. One of our prep for the last few months of the game was actually trying to get better at Cave Hardpoint, and we finally kind of got over that line about a few weeks before Champs came along, and we really pushed to make that one of our maps in our pool, and nobody was really expecting us to play that because we were 0-6 until Champs playing that map this year. We barely lost it every time, but it's still to the point where like you don't really expect the team to go for a pick that's like, it's kind of a hump, right? You have to like get over that boundary to really make sure that map's a good map for you. But we practiced it a ton, and I think we were like 11 or 12 out of the last 13 scrims we played on that map specifically from either side. So we felt super comfortable going into Champs playing that map, and that was kind of like honestly every 3 matches we played, well, the 2 against FaZe were basically, I felt like Cave Harbor was kind of like that starting factor that helped us push through and make sure that we had the advantage going into a series. And the preparation we put against the teams we played against, like Ann said, we put a lot of hours in, especially the FaZe matchup.
Yeah.
Obviously, we kind of had a good idea. Regardless who made it through Chicago, Chicago and the losers, we had a good feeling that we're going to play FaZe twice on the second weekend. Regardless if we won or lost. So we really made sure that our prep work was done for FaZe, and we looked at what they were strong at and what we felt the maps were going to happen. And we can talk a little bit more about the winners semi, because there's a decision they made that we still don't quite understand.
Okay.
That allowed us to have a good edge in the final. But yeah, no, it like Ant said, dude, putting all the hours in and like as a team and really make sure like everyone was committed to it and just to kind of see that's really what's synced in for me so far is really seeing the kind of the flourish of all the work we put in really come through and show you that the process we went through this year worked.
Yeah, that's awesome. And before we move too far forward, I've got to make sure I ask you the fan favorite question. So I asked Ray, I ask everybody, you know, potato chips. What I want to know is your top 5 potato chip flavors.
Wait, so like just chips or like
Yeah,
just
chips. Yeah.
chips? All right, I'm gonna go with like this is people are gonna hate me for this, but
Flavors.
Takis, my number one. Hot Cheetos. You know, lemon Lay's chips, lemon Lay's potato chips.
Yeah.
And then turbos, and then barbecue chips.
Okay.
You just say lemon?
Yeah, he definitely did.
Yeah,
I don't think
I
I've ever had lemon chips. What the heck?
They're actually really good. Actually, really
And
good.
have you ever had a
tried it?
ketchup? Have you ever had a ketchup chip?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe.
Yeah, they're good.
I don't think I like it.
They're real good.
Actually, wait. Do they taste like barbecue in a way?
A little bit. Like they kind
I
of.
think
I mean,
I've
they
had
look
them.
like a barbecue chip, but they're a little more like I guess vinegary on the edge, and like a little more tangy, zesty.
I think
they're-
I've tried
they're
it,
good.
but I can't remember.
No, I mean, there's people agreeing with you. So, I mean, reflect on the year of Modern Warfare. What was the most challenging part of the first season of franchising that you guys as a team had to overcome? And also, kind of, what were the most notable changes you guys made, whether it be routine, play styles, roles, in-game leadership, and so on, that helped you achieve what you have?
In the beginning of the year, I feel like the biggest problem was just like understanding our roles. So we wanted to be. They didn't like Clay and Porter didn't really know what type of player I was, and I kind of had to like just figure out that myself, to be honest, in COD, because in Halo I was like an all-star player, just running around the map, was just slippery and all that stuff, and I didn't really do that in COD because I kind of forced myself to just be that support player in the start of the year. So, you know, after we lost the Minnesota event, I was like, yo, I need to switch to dead talents. I need to roam. I need to do, what I do. And then we ended up doing that role switch. And then from there on out, we kind of just found our footing. And yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like the role change happened before I came along. I think it was like a few weeks, and then also Kyler switched his role a little bit to kind of accommodate Ant having more freedom over the map, and that seemed to just kind of unlock everyone's potential in a way. Like I feel like honestly, like I can't speak of good enough about Kyler and Kyler being Hugh, to how underrated his elements and what he brought to the team this year was. Like he was always the guy who's going to kind of give up whatever he has. He was kind of like everyone talks about the bitch role. Like he encompassed that and played it to a T like all year long, and like including the finals. Like and I'll be the first one to tell you like he baited left and right for everyone to have success and do all the things he did. And everyone like talked about statistically he didn't do well. Like to me that was like he's one of the main reasons why we won champs is because of how he played and how selfless he was.
Yeah.
And that kind of shit's sick to see as a team and coach.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, a question for you, Ray. First year of franchising, first year as head coach of Dallas, and the boys secure the biggest chip of all. Was there an immediate release of pressure? I know from talking to you a while back that you were very confident in the guys' ability to turn up at champs and take it home, as was Clayster. But naturally, I get the idea that you must have had some moments of mild doubt or worry considering the platform was online and there were variables that are out of your control.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the online aspect is something that even I had to kind of look past. We didn't really kind of worry about it, all the whatever stress and weird stuff that can happen from online play with connectivity and all that stuff. We had to look past it and just focus on being the best we could at the game that we were playing. And my job in that was just preparing the guys and making sure that everyone's on the same page and everyone understands what we're trying to accomplish at every part of the game, which I felt like we did really well. Yeah, it's the one thing I'll say is like you know as a coach how well your team is prepared going to the tournament and you can feel it.
Yeah.
I feel like for champs and was it that one event? Was it the Paris event that we won pretty convincingly? And we only lost one map that event.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Paris, yeah.
Yeah, like we were just destroying teams for like 2 or 3 weeks leaving that tournament. Like that is honestly like the only tournament all year that I was not stressed watching because I knew for a fact we were going to win that tournament just because of how well we were playing leading up to it and how well we were playing within that tournament. Champs, I'd say, was probably the second closest as far as like confidence is concerned. We hadn't really scrim phase that much leading up to it, so that was like the only kind of determining factor to me was like how well are we right now compared to them? And that's like, you only really get that from playing a team. So like the few weeks leading up, obviously they didn't want to play us because they didn't want us to know how good, or and vice versa. We don't really want to give them our strategies and see how we're doing things so they can counter it and whatnot. So yeah, no, it was special. Like I felt like we molded and did really well for what happened with things going from LAN to online. The preparation, what we were doing when I first came in, was the mentality was like online play isn't. We're not really trying to win games online. We're trying to win games the proper way that's going to work to win them on LAN.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why we had success in LA. And then we had to kind of change that mentality and just kind of go all out. And most of the guys, obviously, that was mostly their decision. But like when we heard it's going fully online, like the guys remembered how well they had started year, just kind of playing like not maniacs, but like upping kind of the pace of play to be really kind of aggressive, because of the online play allows you to do a little more. And they changed that. And I think our season turned around whenever we took on that mentality.
Yeah. I mean, and for you, what has been the most notable positive that Ray has brought to you as a player this season?
Gas me up, bro. See it.
I feel like Ray is like the smartest, and like he knows how to say stuff, and he was like so valuable to our team because the way Clay and Crim criticized us was like just way differently. Like they looked at it completely differently than Ray did, and Ray understood on how to like get his point out without like screaming at you and stuff like that. So he's a really good asset on that. And not only that, he would like call out plays and just tell me like, hey, you did this wrong, instead of doing this, do this. And like I picked up on that, and like that helped me in my gameplay.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that from him, because if he knew me like 7 years ago and actually teamed with me, you would have thought of me just like Crim Six and Click.
Yeah.
That's how I was as a player, bro. I was hard to work with.
I mean,
But yeah, just kind of like pushing towards like Crim and Clay did like an awesome job all year of like really kind of making sure that and I'd say Illy specifically really kind of getting him up to par and respawn and making sure they understood what were the right things to do and the wrong things to do. Kind of what Ant said, they didn't always deliver it in the most easiest way and nicest way. And I was like there to mediate and kind of like rephrase it in a way where I would get through to them a little better. And that's a lot of the stuff that I did with when it was Crim and Clay talking. But yeah, like I brought like, again, like when I came in this year, I didn't want to mess any of what we had up. I felt like the team was in a good place from a process of like practice.
Yeah.
Where I came in and I felt like I had the most kind of help with the team was really pushing to kind of showing them the grander scheme of what we're doing and like what our big team decisions we're making and how we should be modifying that based on what I'm seeing from the mini map and what our thoughts are. So just really like going this direction when we do this is not a great thing. And I feel like that's honestly, like personally, I feel like one of the, like if you have to ask me like what specific map mode I helped the most with, is probably Cave, because our thought process on Cave was to play a lot of scrap early in the year, and that was probably the map that you had to rotate the most on, just to really ensure they had the good spawns. And like later in the year, like Ant would always go to P5 on top, useless. We had like a lot of small things that just kind of put us in good positions to make sure we were giving ourselves the best chance to win a game.
Yeah.
And as soon as we got ahead on that map, I knew for a fact we were never going to.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
As a viewer, just watching Ant get up there at top broken and just watching him hold that growl, it was a bit terrifying. It was so like no one could get near. Do you know what I mean? And the way he held that front push of the hill was always really good to watch. So you can tell just how much you guys practice that as a whole. I mean, Rambo, on the flip side of the question I just asked Ant, do you feel Ant has brought anything this year, maybe something you've never seen before as a quality in a player that has helped push Dallas to the next level?
Bro, him, and I'll put Ender in his bucket too, and then Kyler as well, because they were the three to take. I've never seen players take as much crap as they did from their teammates, and taken in a positive attitude way where they knew they were like meaning the best for them. Like Ant did get frustrated a few times, but like it was rarely for like what they were saying, is more for how they were saying it. But like they just got their grilled, like it's almost like they were bullied to a certain extent. Like no, but isn't that what it felt like at times, Ant? Like would you
yeah, I mean at times, but I knew like they just wanted us to get better, and I understood that.
No.
So.
And like you look like I can't speak enough of how good Ant is skill wise and how like awesome of a player he is. And same thing with Ender, same thing with Kyler. And sorry, I'm on first name basis with the guys, but Hugh and Illy. But really like the attitude that we had as a team, like the selflessness was just like absolutely unparalleled. Like even I teamed with some of the best Call of Duty players of all time. And like even I would have a hard time sometimes getting stuff through to them in a way that, because they would take it in a certain way. And granted, I didn't always deliver the things in the nicest way either when I played, but just really like from a standpoint of like they always, our team always had the best interest to learn. And we had days where things were like super negative, and we would just kind of come back the next day with a positive mindset and learn things from what we did. And that to me was like I couldn't have came into a better place as a coach to coach a team, because I guarantee that probably wasn't the case for any other team in the league. Just from the mindset and attitude our team had. But yeah, like Shotzzy movement wise is just like, if I had to like praise him for one thing, that's just like is absolutely insanely ridiculous.
Yeah.
His movement was like obviously unparalleled. And I feel like, in my opinion, was probably like the big thing that separated from the rest of the players from like the MVP race. Was just like, it would be very rare you saw him have bad games, because he always find ways to make certain plays happen when most of the other players in the league just couldn't.
Yeah.
Based on the movement.
Yeah, he moves like water, bro. It's terrifying to watch. I don't know. I mean, he moved way too fast for me, bro. Way too. I can't. My eyes can't keep up. I just give up. I mean, what do you feel set Dallas apart from every other team when it came to preparation during the build-up to Champs? Because honestly, at Champs, you guys looked unreal. You know, over the course of that weekend, almost as though, dare I go as far to say, you were enjoying playing Modern Warfare. At least that's how it looked. What was it? What was it that set you guys apart as a team from everyone else during that prep period?
I'll start with a good anecdote, and you can kind of push on this, but like we all told ourselves that we loved this game about 2 months before Champ. Like everyone was boundly just like granted it was hard to get on at times, but like everyone just got on with a mindset of like, this game's awesome. We're gonna play this every day and love every minute of it. And honestly, like just to like answer your question generally, I honestly felt like we were the only team that had all 5 players committed to grinding going into Champ. And that's weird to say, like when you're playing for that much money, that much stakes, to have players that are getting on every day. And like I mean, crap, like Ant, Illy, and Hugh played like speedballs for like a couple hours a day after and before scrims, even if there wasn't like tens to play. And that just shows like the dedication that these guys had to compete this year. And like, again, like you can't, like that's the stuff that I can't really do as a coach. Like I can't force players to do that. Like I want you to compete and do that, but like I literally had to do nothing. Like these guys just came out committed to their craft and really make sure they were in the best place possible.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, so going to your question, I feel like the thing that separated the most was just like their preparation. Going into Champs, I've never seen like, you know, including myself, me, Kyler, and Ender, we would literally just sit in a custom game for at least like 3 hours plus and just figure out the most nerdiest things. Like there's a smoke on Ramaza that I had to practice for 2 hours straight, just leading up to Champs, and like I had to perfect that. And you know, that's the stuff that you need to do to, you know, win, you know, these trips like this. So yeah, the biggest separation would just be just preparation, basically.
Some Counter-Strike stuff there. I was actually walking in the office yesterday, and Noah, one of our players on the CS team, was just throwing smokes on the map for like an hour. I'm like, okay, that's commitment right there.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, going back, obviously, you know, you guys have had a great end to the year, but back in April, just before the Huntsman home series, I believe you guys were 0-5 against FaZe and Huntsman collectively. What changed during this time period that gave you guys the upper hand over these teams?
Go ahead, Ant. You can speak to this because you were there for the bad times. I wasn't.
So yeah, during the times that, you know, the first 2 events, I just was so unconfident just because of my role, and like I set myself to honestly failure, because I would just rotate way too early at hills and throw trophies on the hill, and you know, I'm not the player that should be doing that. And you know, I kind of just forced myself. I didn't really say, you know, I wanted to switch. So
yeah,
I feel like that's like the biggest reason was just myself, honestly, the way we lost those 2 maps. Like I feel like everyone else on the team was playing really good, just besides myself, to be honest. And then, you know, we ended up making that role switch, and then from there on out, we were contesting with FaZe and Huntsman.
I mean, it's crazy to say, but like everyone has to kind of remember that this was a team with players that never competed on the Call of Duty stage before, right? Like, like, and it's like you would think of it now, and like most people, like you tell the story, like this, you talk about the second half of the season, a bunch of people like, oh, these players are awesome, they're great, they've always been awesome, but it's like, no, dude, like we had some hardships earlier this year, and we pushed through those and we learned from them. It's just really like, and that's another thing that Crimsix was talking about a lot during the championship weekend, is like we knew that if we beat FaZe in the winners final, we were going to win champs. Like these guys have not faced adversity like we did all year. They did not know what it felt like to feel like at a disadvantage, feel a little lost.
Yeah.
And like we ate that. Like we just took that, and like they could have not felt that way. It didn't mind. We thought that they felt that way, so we took it like it was almost like a motivational thing for us, and really pushed us through to really kind of have that confidence level in the final.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, like we I mean, crap, we went from like people chanting bad things to us and was it London event to
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
and having that interview that we won't speak of. I always talk about that one. It's one of my favorites.
I mean, look, I think one great thing that did come out of London was that Shotzzy learned how to use a knife and fork, right? So, you know.
We won't talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, and at the start of the season, there was a lot of speculation around how you'd perform after making the switch from Halo to COD. And, you know, the first event, people questioned your ability. Months later, you solidified yourself as someone who is, from the looks of it, not only here to stay, but definitely to win and to win big. I mean, MVP this year at Champs, securing the biggest prize pool COD has ever seen. What were the early stages like for you, and what did it take mentally to ultimately prove every doubter wrong? And also on the flip side of this for you, Ray, was Shotzzy difficult to coach into a whole new game considering his background in Halo, or did he possess the mannerisms and professionalism that helped him slot right into the team?
So, wait, ask that question for me again?
Yeah, no. So what I was just asking was...
I didn't feel like any shit on it started here.
Yeah, pretty much. So, I mean, at the start of the season, obviously, there was a lot of speculation around you and how you'd perform, and obviously, the first event, there was a lot of questions around your ability, and people had a lot to say. And months later, like I said, you've solidified yourself as someone who is not only here to stay, but to win and win big. MVP this year in the CDL, securing the biggest prize pool COD has ever seen as well. But what were the early stages like for you, and what has it taken from you mentally to ultimately prove everyone wrong?
Yeah, the other stages, I was obviously getting shit on. I'm not gonna lie, because I just didn't understand the game as much as others did. Even though I put the time and stuff like that, it wasn't even that. It's just like I didn't understand. Like I said, because of my role switch, like it's so different going from a dead silence player because the timings on hills, and I just didn't know that. I would just sit in hill, rotate for my team, just do all the dirty work basically, and I set myself up for failure for like the two first events, and then we got Ray as a coach. We had a person in Codcast. He was able to help us with their spawns and stuff like that because initially we didn't have anyone like that. So I couldn't, sit in a theater because there was no theater. So Ray helped us a lot with that, the spawn system. Once we knew the spawn system, I kind of just was that roam player. I knew how to use the spawn system, be known on the map, and from there on out, it was GG, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, dude, like I can't attest enough for how easy it was to coach this team, like especially the younger guys. Like obviously, like Clay was really open to my feedback. Krim probably not so much. Like just kind of how he is as a person, as a player. He's a little harder to get to. Yeah. But he would he would have his days where he's open minded and we can talk and really kind of try and get through to the whole team in general. But yeah, no, dude, like I can't attest enough to the attitude that Ant, Illy, and Hugh had this year, just to take in everything we had to say. And they knew like it was the process that we went through and the openness they had just was like really kind of a stems and the reward was really winning champs. And I honestly I really hope our system and our process is going to be the same next year. And if it doesn't change and we were able to kind of discuss openly like we did this year, we're going to be a hard team to beat for a few years if that's really the case in my opinion. So yeah. I don't care what the game is. I don't care what the style is. Like we have some of the greater minds in the league in our team, and we have probably, if not the best skill like combined in our team. So like that's a scary combination to go up against if I'm any of you.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Ant, it must have been quite exciting, but also a little unnerving making a switch to a new esport and immediately going in at the height of the competition too onto a roster that already had a lot of expectation due to the aura of personalities that are in there. What was the hardest adjustment to make for you, and how did the team make you feel comfortable and confident in your ability early on?
The hardest adjustment was just understanding the game because it's totally different when it comes down to Halo and COD. Time to kill is different, the spawn system is different. So the biggest difference was just for me personally was understanding the game, and what took me to that next step was just I had talked with Kyler one day, and he just basically gave me and Ender at the time just a lot of confidence in ourselves, and he said we're the best players and stuff like that. So that helped us a lot.
Awesome.
For me personally, like the one thing that Ant, like the biggest change I've seen on Ant since I joined the team is his understanding how to play his life. He was just like if he saw a gunfight or a red dot on the minimap, he's going in a straight line. He's taking, I'm killing that dude. And then and there's times where especially in this game, honestly, I feel like Ant came in probably one of the perfect games for him, because out of any Call of Duty game, this was the one that was probably the most successful strategy to do that. And when you saw FaZe just kind of take beelines straight across maps and just run at people and kill them, and it would win games that way. And that was one thing, I've been telling this, and like in the game next year, at least from what I've seen so far, that might not be a strategy that works so much. So really, like his understanding and ability to understand situations he's in, and grasp that like him staying alive here is actually more beneficial to the team than getting the two piece around the corner. And those are things that he's like, the way he's learned those things and the speed he's learned those things at, out of any player I've ever teamed with, is remarkable.
Yeah.
I mean, he took like 5 months to learn things that I would argue most top players in the league probably took 2 or 3 years to fully understand. Like, I'm not saying just a little bit, but like he got to a point where he had it down to a T. And like, just like that kind of annoyance when you have a player that can win gunfights, but also plays life and understand that the spawn system or whatever he's doing influences the game in a certain way. And that's more beneficial for the team. Like, that's absolutely insane. Because he's also like doing that. Like, I did a lot of my career, but like if I really had to win a two piece after the fact, then I wouldn't win it. But he can win it nonstop. So it's just like it's a scary thing to play against when people can do that with that skill level.
Yeah. I mean, Ant, I can only imagine how much knowledge Clayster shared with you over the course of the year. And Ray, I mean, at points I'd assume it's safe to say that his strong mind and leadership may have helped you in your role too. What's it been like recently having to come to terms that he won't be part of the Dallas lineup next year? And on top of that, what's one thing that you're both going to miss about him that you feel is irreplaceable in terms of what he brings to a team?
I mean, it absolutely sucks. I'll tell you that.
We're gonna miss Clay. I mean, like he was just such a big asset to our team. Like the biggest thing I want to miss from him was just his communication. You know, he was that player that just communicated everything he saw on the screen, and you know it's gonna be hard without him. Not gonna lie, but it is 44, so there's gonna be a lot of breathing room on communication and stuff like that. And my biggest thing that I had when it came down to like communication was just like the comms we get fluttered, and at times I couldn't really talk just because everyone's screaming and stuff like that. So he's helped me to communicate in a way to the point where like I'm being heard and stuff like that. So
yeah.
Yeah, I think that like from a playing standpoint, like the biggest thing we're going to miss from him is also his in-game leadership. Like on the same communication front, he was the one that was doing most of the kind of bigger shot calls towards the end of the year for us. I worked on that a little bit with him through mid-year, and I like made him understand that like your voice is the one being heard in game, because he's a very emotional kind of like loud player, kind of what Ant's discussing. And like that's great to have, but you just need that voice to be the one that's kind of like dictating what really should be happening. So I can speak to specific points, but like in the finals when we played FaZe and it was the Petrograd domination, the map that I honestly felt like we had zero chance to win. We were down 20 going on the bad side, but he made like once we got the two flags we won on the second side, he made a communication line saying, understanding where the threats are coming from and really trying to get people to pivot on what we're trying to do from what we talked about doing. And it worked out to a T. We called that they were coming down mid streets, and he was saying, let's pivot this way. I'll hold this angle more, and like making kind of like that strategic adjustment mid game. And that's not something that we really had people do on our team besides Clay this year. So like me personally, like as a coach looking next year, like we're going to have to try and fill those shoes with someone else's voice. And that's probably going to be the hardest thing, because that is one thing I'll say that like that's a hard thing to accrue in a short amount of time. Like that's a skill set. Like that's to the point where a player's not only worrying about their own gameplay, but they have to worry about what's going on throughout the game.
Yeah.
And be able to communicate to their teammates without really affecting their own play.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like when I played, that's the player I was. I just let it affect my own play to a point where like it hurt my statistics in my play. But to me, like my team being on the same page and doing what we should be doing was more important for winning, which arguably was at the time. But these days it's a little different. So again, like that's something we'll have to figure out. I mean, obviously his mind and his Musk, like his will to win was definitely one of the strongest I've ever played with and ever seen out of anyone. So yeah, it's going to be hard. And again, like can kind of like speak to that point though, like everyone who's like, oh, it should have been this, should have been that. Like dude, there's like not a single person on our team that we could get rid of without being a negative. There was no winning. Like this is me speaking as a GM. Like there was zero winning in our shoes in that situation.
Yeah.
And can kind of attest to this as well. But we called every player individually the day that like a decision was kind of trying to be made. And we offered the players if they were all into it, the opportunity to go into a 5-man roster next year and do what Toronto could have done this year and really kind of possibly do where we have substitutes and like maybe Illy comes in for sniper maps on search, and then Clay goes into domination maps where ARs are really useful, and then so on and so forth. Kind of like flip-flop the roster to really kind of come in and make sense to have the strongest capabilities on every map and mode combination. That would have been obviously very difficult, but we were like, that's how much we wanted to keep our roster together. We were
Yeah.
trying to push with that, and obviously, I mean, there's so many risks involved with that for the players, like kind of careers and whatnot. So we went away from it, but still, it just kind of attests to like how well we liked our team at Empire, and we didn't want to lose that.
Mhm.
It sucks a lot for us to lose Clay.
Yeah, it's really understandable. I mean, Ray, throughout the year, you know, you were one of the only teams that didn't make a change and pretty much rode it out, with it ultimately paying off the way it has. How much input did the subs have to improving and giving positive input to the Dallas roster? Was there any point in the year where, as a team, you guys kind of stepped back and considered a change? Were tensions ever high or things looking dull?
Not after I came onto the team. I mean, like obviously we won the first event I came in, and I worked with the guys very briefly for like a week and a half, 2 weeks before the LA event. Beforehand, my understanding is that Tommy was trying to help out and possibly chime in and maybe come in and play some games. I don't know exactly how that would have went out or how that would have worked out. Obviously, that all went out the window whenever we won the tournament. And even when I came in, like with the roster we had, like I think everyone understood that it was going to take time, and like the only reason why I felt like if I would, let's say I was part of the roster for the whole year and I would have saw our lack of success early on, the only reason why I would have wanted, like if I would have saw that would have kind of prompted change is if a player wasn't putting in the time to try and solve that, right?
Yeah.
Like let's say Ant for whatever reason was like, I like playing Halo. I'm gonna play Halo more than COD now. I'm paid to play COD, but you know what? I like my Halo. And then like, but if I saw that as a coach, I'd be like, well, if this guy's not performing and he's not only not performing, but not putting in the time to try and fix it, that's an issue. Then you think about kind of possibly shuffling roster or not. But it would have been totally unfair to any player on the team to not give it really its true chance with the potential this roster had earlier this year. And obviously it proved out towards the end of the year with us winning the tournament, the biggest year.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, Crim6 has spoken on interviews recently about how everyone in the roster was just so focused and respectful of each other's time, all working toward one common goal. What kind of mental strains did this have on you and yourself, Ray, as individuals? I mean, ultimately, Modern Warfare was not a fun Call of Duty to play for most people. And with silent patches and meta changes being here, there, and everywhere toward the final months of the season, it must have been really hard to keep full composure and stay driven. Were there any things that you guys did as a team to build relationships and develop friendships outside of just playing the game, such as team exercises? Or was it just a general committed respect of each other's time and passion that carried you through?
Go ahead, Ant.
I'd say throughout the year we were like, teammates, and not only that, just like best friends outside the game and stuff. So that helped us a lot. And just like outside of scrims, we still wanted to play. We still wanted to just research and study teams and stuff like that. Me, Kyler, and Krim, like I said, we went over, nerdy stuff, and we were just so dedicated to winning champs. So yeah, over to you, Ray.
We had our
I'll
hardships.
have more to say once you say something.
Okay, we had our hardships through the year. Honestly, like it wasn't always peachy. I mean, to a point where like Krim had his days where he came in and we would play like some of the bottom teams in the league, and he hated it because it's like he feels like we're not going to learn anything. And then I would be like, well, there's always something to learn because it's like you play the game. There's situations that you might see when you stomp on a team that who knows, whenever you have a really good start against FaZe, it helps you kind of, let's say there's a spawn trap that you don't see very often.
Yeah.
But you would get a lot against Paris, but not a lot against FaZe. But like practicing it against Paris might help you keep it together if you have it against FaZe one day for whatever reason. And like we had our hardships on that end, but yeah, no, for the most part, like I feel like at least the younger guys were kind of like a trio that played a lot of like games on their own time together. And a lot of the guys played a lot of tens throughout the year. Krim had his like episode of Verdansk there throughout the mid-year, and he understood that it started like he understood personally that it wasn't like his play was suffering from it.
Yeah.
And he made the own decision. Like it wasn't something we told him not to do. He made the own decision of like I need to stop doing this because it's affecting my play competitively. And obviously his second half of the season was a lot better. For that reason, in my opinion, one of the main reasons why he was. So but yeah, no, like the frustration we had is like for me, the biggest frustration was really like the server situation of online play. Like we basically the league was supporting 60 hertz servers for competitive play, which is awesome. But when we practiced, we didn't have access to that. We had access to 12 hertz deddies, and it made it difficult for us to truly prepare for tournament matches, and it made a lot of frustrations having to play certain teams. And then like I was trying to make sure my guys are prepared and practicing, but then certain days we would just lose scrim time or scrims altogether because certain players don't want to play on certain servers and vice versa or whatever that is. So that was really like the main frustrations for me all year. The game, like people overreact when it comes to like meta changes and game changes. They're not always timed in the best capacity, right? Like, but like everyone has to understand the game developers are doing what's best for their game and what's for the larger part of the community, which isn't us. So it's really like it's part of the Call of Duty player's job to adapt. regardless of the amount of time that he has to adapt. And that's something that I think we took on to like obviously do our best. What was frustrating for us is when other teams and other players were trying to GA shit left and right because they weren't agreeing of those changes and wanted the game to stay the same.
Yeah.
And that's just like, okay, well, because let's say the patch comes out on Monday before an event, the players are talking for 2 or 3 days about GAs, and then boom, like the day before you start competing, they're GAing something. It's like, okay, well, now how the fuck do we prepare for this? Like that was the more frustrating part for me. But beyond that, like again, like the mindset and the attitude that our team had was just like unparalleled, and I feel like is again why we this year.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Go ahead, Ant. You said you had something else.
Yeah, to that question, the biggest frustration for me personally was just like getting on every single day and playing, you know, either 12 hertz and 6 hertz, and they're two completely different spawn systems. And like I didn't say a word about it. You know, Raid knows this. Like I'm just not that guy that, you know, will sit there and complain and stuff like that. So, you know, I balled it. I didn't say a word. I was, you know, positive the whole time, and then but that was just one of my biggest frustrations that, you know, didn't let get to me.
Right. So we had the opportunity to scrim on 60 hertz, but it was through the GB servers, which all the players agreed, contrary to the devs' beliefs, that the spawns are different.
Yeah.
And like when we didn't have access, like if the players play on 60 hertz, I would just get to watch one of their stream POVs.
Yeah.
Since we didn't have access to minimap because the coaches it would just be the players in the game, or the way the system worked. But yeah, like we all agreed, and everyone basically, there's still a few teams for whatever reason throughout the midseason that absolutely want to play on that. So if we wanted to scrim, they would be like, well, if you don't scrim us on GB servers, we're not scrimming you. And we're like, okay, well, do we want to play or play the game the wrong way, or like left and right? It was like, what do we do really? And that was like, again, a frustration we had this year that I really, really hope we can deal with next year.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, and outside of competing, have you been a COD fan for many years, or?
Yeah, I've been a COD fan since like back in like the AW days. That's when I like first started watching COD.
Okay. And I mean, if you could sit and pick a COD now that you wish you had the opportunity to compete on a previous title, which one would it be?
A COD game?
Yeah.
Like which game would you have?
Oh, AW 100%. That game looks fun with those
movement, right? Movement, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, it had to be a movement game.
Yeah. I mean, Ray, having competed at the heights that you have as well, including having played in a COD Champs final yourself before, was there anything that you learned from that experience that you feel was unique in terms of skill set that you were able to pass on as knowledge to the new gunners such as Shotzzy and Illy?
No, I honestly I'd say what I would have had to give if our team was comprised of just young players is really the mindset to really kind of take things one step at a time and not look ahead. But Clay specifically, and Krim as well, did a lot of like good stuff on being vocal, like pre-game, post-game, about like what's the mentality you really want to have to compete at the highest level when it comes down to this. And they both won world championships, unlike me. So it's like, I mean, I didn't really have to do much on that end because I felt like they were doing a good job really getting the players in a good emotional state, the younger guys. So yeah, dude, was it? I'm 31 now, so my first ever event was 19. And you're 18 still, right? Did you turn 19 yet?
No, 19. Ender's 18 though. So
okay, so you were 19. So what was that like? He was 9 years, or no? Sorry, you were 7 years old when I went to my first ever event.
I'm not doing.
What year were you born? 2002, 2001. 2001. So you were 8. You know, you were 8 years old when I went to my first event. Look at that.
Wow.
I was gonna make a funny joke that he was still in diapers, but he wasn't.
Yeah, I would have been like 13 when you went to your first event. So yeah, that's a while. Damn. I mean, Anne, how different was it competing for the COD Championship compared to the Halo Championship? I mean, obviously the known difference is that COD this year was online, but did the feeling of winning COD Champs surpass the feeling of winning Halo Champs? Did it mean as much to you?
To be honest, like Halo, our preparation was nowhere near. Like I'm gonna say, like if we're going percentage wise, I'd say like 10% or like even like 5% from Halo to COD, because in Halo, you know, I'm not sure if you knew this, but we did not scrim that much just because we were so ahead of the game to the point where if we scrimmed anyone, it would just give them the up advantage, and we didn't want to give anyone that. So, you know, instead of scrimming, we played 2v2s against each other, and we just like, you know, played, you know, matchmaking. We played against each other a lot, and that's basically what we did leading up to champs. And, you know, it was a breeze going through, you know, that championship. And then, you know, over to Call of Duty, the preparation was just absurd. It was 100%, you know, everyone was dedicated to it, and it was just completely different from, the way we did it in Halo. So the preparation was way more intense compared to Halo.
That's awesome. I mean, after hearing that answer, which do you find more enjoyable, Halo or COD? I mean, for example, if Halo had a franchise league, would you make the switch back, or are you committed to this new world of Call of Duty?
Say again?
So, I mean, after that answer, which do you find more enjoyable, Halo or COD? If Halo was to come out this year with a franchised league, would you make the switch back, or are you now committed to this new world of COD?
Not yet. So Halo will always have a sweet spot, man, because I played that game since I was 4 years old. So that game is always gonna have a sweet spot. But personally, like competitive wise and competing, I love COD. Like it's just more intense. It has a bigger fan base, and overall, it's probably just better. And fun wise, I would go with Halo, but competing in, I'd say Call of Duty 100%.
Awesome, that's great to hear.
Goddamn Halo noob. I can't even lie, dude. Like me and Big Timer, when we team was this Modern Warfare 2, we probably played more Halo 3 customs at the time than we did Modern Warfare 2 during that competitive season. I won't even lie.
I mean, yourself, Crimsix, and Hugh have all obviously had previous success in Halo to some form. As a three, how do you think you guys would perform as a team now on Halo? If you were to take yourself, Hugh, and Crim, how do you think that would work out?
I'd say we'd be at least top 300%.
Really?
Hugh was actually one of the best players before he even left Halo 5.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure everyone could vouch for him that he was literally the best player during the time when before he left. And I was considered one of the best at one point. So, 2 main slayers, and then Porter would just sit back, relax, shoot his gun, and then we could easily get a nasty 4th. So, I mean, I think we could be top 3.
Damn, that's cool. So you wake up on Champs Day, right? Obviously you're at home, we're online, so there's no event. What are you eating out of that fridge? What is the first meal you're cooking up for Champs Day?
Listen, for some reason, every single event, it's different at LAN, because at LAN, you could go somewhere with the team and get stuff, but during the online events, I legit would not eat, only drink water, and I would eat after my game. So if we played at 2 o'clock, I would not eat. I wake up like 10, not eat, play a match, and then eat. I did this with every single match.
Damn, how come?
I just didn't want to get the Hershey Squirt is what they call it. I just didn't want to I remember. Actually, what traumatized me was this London event. I got for breakfast. It was like sausage, eggs, and like bread or something like that. And Porter looked at me and said, "Wait, you're eating sausage?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And he was like, "No, don't eat that." So then I ended up eating it, and then we got to the event, and then I had to go to the bathroom, and I understood why he said not to eat that. So ever since then, it kind of just traumatized me, and I haven't ate before a match yet.
That's brilliant. That's awesome news. I mean, obviously we've had a pretty good look into Cold War now, right? Was it a 3-hour reveal, I believe? It was pretty lengthy. It's probably the biggest one they've ever done. What are you guys most excited for next year?
Strategy.
Game, dude.
Strategy,
everything what Call of Duty brings. New game, new system of just time to kill, new weapons, all the fun stuff.
Just based on what I've seen, I obviously I got to play a few games. The pace of the game is not going to be as movement based, so automatically that puts more thought process going into the game, and then it becomes more of a kind of a chess game, quote unquote. It seemed really, really difficult to kill a lot of people successfully in a row in succession. So getting a 2 or 3 piece next year is going to be very difficult, kind of how it was back in the day. Unless someone's just in a really good position, you're just kind of running out in the open. But if you're maneuvering around and you're jumping out and like last year, you can see Ant get 2 or 3 kills like it was nothing, just running out in the middle of the street. If you do that next year, I got a feeling he's going to get maybe 1.5, and he's probably going to drop. But it's just from the basis of the game and the way, at least from the maps we've seen, I feel like the Moscow map had the best chance to be an actual competitive map out of what we played. And just the way the choke points are formed and the way the game kind of felt movement wise, it seemed a lot more attrition based on position rather than just kind of outright just running at people and just being maniacs. Which what this year felt like the best way to play the game. So we're going to see a big shift in mindset. And that's honestly something that I personally love, because that was kind of my bread and butter when I played, was really that kind of that mindset of just playing chess with COD kind of thing. So I'm excited for it. Really, it's going to be really great. And yeah, like kind of what Man said, like, oh, it's always cool to get that little refresher, the new maps, the new feel, the weapons look cool. I'm actually a huge fan of the health bar so far. To give you a take on where the kind of the gunplay is going.
Yeah.
And the weapons feel good. I mean, it's a Treyarch game. Like the way Treyarch makes games always really feels good on weapon play. So I'm excited for that as well.
That's awesome. I mean, and how do you think you're going to adjust to this, this change of pace and play styles with 4v4 being the confirmed team size?
I got you.
Oh yeah. Oh, how many? No, yeah. For 4v4, I'm gonna like you just because I played Halo, so I know how 44 is and stuff like that. So I'm gonna adjust it pretty well. I'm excited to play this new COD with the whole MW had this squad spawn, so I'm gonna have to figure out this way of learning the new spawns, is what they say. So
yeah,
to spawn out and stuff like that. So I'm gonna have to adjust to that. Ray guys went back on that, but yeah.
The decision making that you have, like just the 4-on-4 aspect makes a difference. But when you think about it, like when you have 4 players or 5 players, like it's easier to kind of have a game where one player is not performing as well as he really should be to kind of pick up on. Like if you have 4 guys really playing well and then one guy who's having a rough game, typically you can get away with it. On a 4-on-4, because of that lack of it, like that's one less voice going on for communication. That's one less gun on the map, and that's one less position depending on the pace of the game, especially if it's a slower pace game. That one less player makes a huge difference. And it really becomes more of a thinking game than a shooting game. And that's one thing that all the guys on our team and every team in the league is gonna have to adjust and really understand. And it's gonna be crazy at first. Like you're gonna see people, I guarantee you're gonna see like 3 or 4 teams in the league try to play the game the same way they did this year. And I mean, who knows? Like obviously we're still early. I have no idea it may work, but from my understanding so far, it seems like it's just gonna blow in their face and it's gonna have a really rough time.
Yeah. I mean, Ray, with your experience pretty much, stretching back since and was in diapers, like you said, what COD would you say Cold War feels to play the closest to?
Honestly, like just from a gameplay standpoint, it felt a lot like Black Ops 1.
Okay.
Just like speed, like the way sprint worked, the way you would kind of maneuver around walls. Obviously, like the sliding mechanic was like the new kind of addition as of late CODs, and they still seem to want to keep some sort of movement base, but they seem pretty adamant about it not being kind of a combat mechanic.
Yeah.
More so being a movement mechanic, which is kind of different. Like the slide mechanic this year was like people slide cancel around the corner and just shoot a guy because they don't even see him yet, but under screen they see him kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't seem like that's going to be necessarily too big of a thing next year. So I'm just excited to kind of see again like that positional kind of war of attrition on the map and really make sure you make the right decisions as a team to really kind of come through and then let the skill kind of flourish. But yeah, I mean, like I feel like Ant and Kyler, like Shuk and Shotzzy this year, were probably 2 of the best players to fight their way out of situations that you wouldn't think a player could.
Oh yeah.
And that's something in 4v4 that's an extremely huge, valuable thing to a team. Yeah. Because especially like I mean, Ant wasn't there, but in Black Ops 2 days and the old days, the way Hardpoint was played, it was actually really hard to break hills. Like everyone saw this year as like the money hills, like let's say P2 on Hackney Yard was like freaking impossible to break. It was impossible to break because you spawn right next to the hill and breaking that spawn was really hard. But in the past, back in the day, it was hard to break hills because you spawned so far away from it.
Yeah.
Like once you got the kills, it would be easy. But because you're spawning so far away, getting to the point where you could break the hill was just difficult. And that just made that kind of like intelligent play and really make sure you're rotating properly on the map that much more important. And more so than just killing people left and right. So I'm excited for that. Like if that's the kind of Call of Duty we have next year, I'm excited for it. And I'm probably going to play a lot myself. So, I'm probably going to fill the substitute spot on the team, if Ant's not coming hot,
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, from the sounds of it, like they're just trying to nerf Ant, right? That's what it is. They just need to nerf Ant.
Yeah, they're sick as need that. Yeah, I get it. They're trying to get my career back. They want me to play again. That's what they want. Yeah,
this guy moves like water, bro. So it's got to be done. I mean, Ray, with your success and experience being heavily based in 4v4 COD, it must be exciting for you seeing the sport returning to this structure. However, it was clear to see how much the loss of Clayster has affected the team. Now, if you had the option to make next year 5v5 just to have Clayster back, at the risk of the game not being great, would you do
it? That's putting me on the spot there. I mean, it's a lose-lose question. I either say I love Clay and I want him back, or I'd say no Clay and he hits my ass. No, it's interesting. Like I feel like there's people kind of like jump to conclusions really quickly. Like 5v5 to me, like obviously had its kind of downfalls because of the pace and like a lot of kind of elements just kind of become mishmashy. And it's, to me, the biggest thing is really from a watchability standpoint. It's harder to build stories around 5 guys than it is 4. And it's also easier to follow action when there's only 4 guys on the map because there's not as much going on. Like that to me, simplicity is like the best kind of change. I do personally feel like 5v5 search was actually more entertaining and better for the game. But I do feel like the respawn mode kind of suffered from the extra player.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the biggest thing is like I mean, and like you saw a lot of it this year. Like first bloods, for example, like weren't always a huge determining factor of who would win around. Because having 4, like a 5v4 is a lot different than a 4v3. First blood and a 4-on-4 is a huge difference. If teams play their cards properly. So I felt like from a watchability standpoint, it was actually cooler to see like a team still be able to win a round when they lost a guy early, and kind of be willing to take risks early in the round because you know that you can still win a round if someone dies. Over so like the more kind of methodical, slower rounds you see in 4v4 typically, because losing that player early makes a huge difference. So, but answer your question, yeah, no, it's a shitty question. I don't like it. I'm not gonna answer it. I love playing. I love 4v4. How about that?
That's great. There we go. It's the best way to do it. So, I mean, roster mania is upon us, right? 45 plus players, I believe it was, going FA with no real sense of security, no guarantee they'll be earning a salary in a franchise team in a few months. Ray, if you were the head coach at one of these franchises that has just released their entire roster, what qualities would you be looking for in players right now going into a 4v4 year?
Well, you mean a GM? I mean, a coach.
Yeah, sorry, GM. My bad. Yeah.
It's interesting. Like one I would like to say, like personally, I mean, I don't know this for sure about the other teams, but it seems like a lot of teams had intentions to keep their players just for less money.
Yeah.
Because of COVID and the way like it's impacted a lot of businesses this year, and it's like esports isn't any different. Granted, we were able to kind of keep our business rolling, but like the sponsors that pay to basically the players' salaries are suffering from this because people that are buying their products don't have as much money. So that's kind of my understanding of why a lot of these people were kind of stubbed down as free agents. Not because the teams didn't believe in those players, but more so because those players are just getting paid a lot more than the team was capable to withhold.
Yeah.
So that some of the teams were greedy and was like, hey, let's maybe try and re-sign this guy for $50K less this year.
Yeah.
And some players didn't go for that security and just jumped to another ship. But yeah, like I really like, I have it like Ant and Illy and Kyla. I mean, Carla's been around for a few years, so I'll just put Ant and Illy in this bucket. The attitude that these guys have brought, like I've honestly never seen that in Call of Duty, from a new player standpoint. And if that means there's a lot more amateurs out there to have, like, who knows, maybe Mac was like that. Awakening might have been, like, I've never had interactions. I've had a few talking interactions with Mac. He's probably a little more on the trolley side, but like with Awakening, I have no idea what kind of personality he is. But like, if there's new amateur up and coming players that have that kind of skill level and talent that are able to keep up with professionals, if they have the attitude that these kids would have, I would much rather sign these guys with the potential that they might not be as great right off the bat. But if they're willing to learn and have the right attitude and they have the skill set to play at a high level, then I would much rather sign those guys over some of the veterans that I have been around for a while that haven't really never really, like, there's a lot of good vets out there that just never won anything. Like, I'm not going to start naming names, but like there's some players this year that got on teams just because of their names and like because they've been around for a while, and that, in my opinion, shouldn't have had teams, like shouldn't have been players on teams that they were on. Like you saw a lot of the bottom teams just not perform, and it's not because the players were just that bad. I mean, personally, I think it's an attitude thing for the most part. I mean, crap, like the Seattle situation is the one that sticks out, and I'll say name, like there's no reason Enable should have been dropped off that roster that early in the season.
Yeah.
Like that to me was like, there's something going on with the players behind the scenes there to where they don't have the right attitude, the right mindset to really kind of thrive as a team. And they just want the quick, easy way out to try and pick someone else up. And that just flopped back in their face, and everything went wrong for that team this year. And that's just like, you look at like how Octane played really well individually, and then you had a few other players that had their events, but I mean, crap, they even got Karma to retire. Like that's just like, that's wild.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy shit.
Yeah, it's rough. I hate that. I mean, do you think there's a likelihood we'll see him back this year?
I honestly don't know. I'm actually interested by that. I mean, granted, I don't know if he's like he's really like where he is like mentally to play like professional level anymore. Like there's a lot of hours and investment that goes into it. And I can attest to it myself, like towards the end and in my career. I didn't want my career to end, but I was kind of like playing like it. Like I wasn't really investing like but like just I wasn't. It's not that I wasn't like performing. Like I mean, crap. Like my career got ended 2 weeks after I got second at champs. Like I was still competing at a high level, but like my practice and my involvement, like from a playing standpoint, when we were at home practicing, just wasn't where it really needed to be to put myself in that situation or my teammates so I can be confident in performance.
Yeah.
And that was something I struggled with. Like I started doing other things. I started enjoying more things in life, and it got to a point where like just Call of Duty wasn't my like top end priority anymore. And I just kind of like competing at events, freaking awesome. I loved it. Even to this day, like if you ask me, like replace Ant on the main stage at a tournament this year just for like have a match because we're absolutely destroying people. Like hell yeah, let's do it. Let me feel the crowd. Let me get them going. But like the whole like playing like nonstop hours for a whole year every year, like we didn't like when I played, we didn't really have an off season. Like it was like you had tournaments throughout the year. Champs was mid season, but then you kind of had tournaments till the very end until the new game come out and you had to play. So like I typically and it's not like it is now where you have you have 2 months off, you went back to your family and did that. Like when it was like game after game after game. You're just never nonstop. Things are going on every time, and then the new game comes out and you grind from the get go. And it was just like it was grueling, dude. Like it was a lifestyle. You really had to be into it. And don't get me wrong, like I don't regret any of it. It just came to a point in my life where I really wanted to like do something else. And maybe Karma's at that stage now, so who knows, like really what it looks like.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, look, you're an almost professional golf now, right? You know, so you're making
better bowler than golfer.
Yeah. I mean, and for yourself, I mean, obviously, you know, you're still young and you've got already a pretty successful career in esports across 2 games. Have you ever seen something as kind of hectic as this roster mania on Call of Duty?
Never like it. I'm not gonna lie. This is the first time I've ever seen something or orgs literally drop their players and have everyone free agents. And not only that, just the league's not even expanding. So that means 12 or 1 player from every single team is literally gonna get is gonna have no career. Yeah. And that right there is just like insane to me. Like who would have thought that, you know?
That's probably the biggest shame of the whole kind of 5v5 to 4v4 thing. Like honestly, I was personally expecting if they were to make that decision, they were going to actually add more teams to the league. Like there was going to be some like new spots going on to where they can fill those players. Because I mean, granted, like some of the players, in my opinion, don't really belong in this league. But like it obviously sucks to see the fact that some of these guys who work really hard for their job and technically could, in the right mindset and the right team, perform at a high level, just won't have the opportunity to do so next year. And even more so, what sucks the most, in my opinion, is the fact that a lot of amateurs that were performing well this year just won't really have that opportunity because it's like you have to like whatever spot you're gonna have, you want security in your team, but like you can't really give it. Like let's say I don't know, like I'm trying to picture like the bottom 10, 15 players in the league, and you take the top 15 AMs. I think it would have been easier to replace those bottom 15 with the new AMs, but now that bottom 15 is more so like the bottom 25 players, and it's harder to kind of like think that an AM's going to perform better than some of these guys. So
yeah,
that's the difficulty, and it sucks for the AMs because a lot of these kids, like I'll bring Tyler Fellow's name, but he's a player that performed really well this year, and that in my opinion should have a spot on the starting roster, but may not.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's the same kind of belief in Europe as well. I mean, obviously with Team War, you know, the likes of Dave and Steve Vortex from the Team War side in Europe, who, you know, won champs and won, you know, majority of the events throughout the year. They performed all year long, and the odds of them getting looking at us, you know, a spot in any place in that CDL is very, very slim, and it's a shame. Obviously, I mean, it's just the fact that the timing has happened. It's just they've had such a successful year, and then COVID on top of that, and with COVID being the issue. And then we're going to 4v4. It's just so difficult to find space for these players when there's already such a big talent pool. An interesting question I've got for both of you, actually. I'll start with you, Anne. And if you were to...
Before you move on, the question that you just asked Ian about roster mania, you should ask him again in like 2 or 3 years from now if he ever actually is in the mix of it.
Yeah.
Because you had a smooth chilling this year. You were like a no-brainer stay. So, but like being like roster mania is like a lot more different and a lot more stressful when you're actually in the mix of like discussion.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Right now, I'm looking at it from like an outside perspective, so I see like
right now you're sitting there with your.
I feel like you would have got a better answer if you actually had felt it firsthand. Hold on to that one. Hold on.
What's happening?
Right now he's just sitting there wondering where that ring is in the post. All right.
I hope it never happens.
Yeah.
What are you starting to say? 3 years, bro.
Yeah.
That's intel right there, guys. Make sure someone clips that. I mean. And a question for you, looking at the FAs that are out there right now, if you, with your, you know, the small time that you've had so far in Call of Duty Esports, if you were to build a 4-man roster for next year out of those FAs, who would you pick?
So free agents. Okay, so let me think. Wait, is there a list? Do we have a
I
list
think
or
there is a list somewhere.
let me get a list?
The Cerdo put a list, I think, of all the
I'm making
players.
God Squad, dude, right now.
Free agent. God. Uh, one second, I'll have to find it.
Yeah,
Keep
I'm just
talking.
looking
We'll
to.
come back to that question in like 2
I'm just
minutes.
looking
Ask
to-
your next
So
question.
free agents. So like, would Clay
I
be
think-
considered a free agent?
I mean,
Technically, yeah.
technically, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
All right,
He's
So
our first pick
Clayster's
for
my
sure.
main.
Yeah.
Yeah, Clayster is my main. Shotzzy or me as my sub. And then I'm gonna go with. Oh, shit. I don't even know. I'll go with what's his name?
Don't know his name's not a good start.
Yeah, yeah. I'll go Bruce as our flex. All right, so we're
Okay.
chilling there. Now we what? One more sub. Wait, how come I have 5 fingers on me?
Because you're that guy. You want a
Alright,
5v5 to say. That's how much you like Clay.
Wait, did I just say? Wait, I said 4.
No,
What?
No, you said 3. You said 3. You, Bruce, and
No.
Clay. Who's your fourth?
No shit. All right.
Right?
So our last guy is John.
Okay,
Ooh, that's a good
damn,
one, yeah.
that is a
That's
good
a good
one,
one.
especially
Good
considering,
answer.
yeah.
I honestly, I think you have a good. I don't know if I would pick Bruce. I love Bruce as a person. I don't. I've heard things about like, to me, attitude is a huge thing in a team.
Yeah.
Like because Arcidi was a free agent, I probably would have took Arcidi's. I would have went Arcidi's,
Oh yeah, I
Clay.
forgot I
Yeah.
forgot that actually. Shit.
Actually, I can't pick you because you're not a free agent. It would have had to be someone else. Who's another player that's a free agent? Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. I would have just stole Mac. I think I would have stole Mac.
Yeah. I think there's just there is so much talent out there at the moment, and I think, like you said, I think one of the biggest consideration points for anyone that is a general manager that's looking to build a roster on one of these franchises is that, you know, a lot of these guys that are kind of having inflated egos or attitude issues, there are people with just as much skill that are much more willing to learn and much more willing to listen and much more willing to adjust to situations around them. And I think a lot of people feel entitled to spots that they might not deserve. You know, there's people that are grinding hard in the shadows and working hard and making stuff happen. So, yeah, I think
That's the hardest thing, though.
Yeah.
Like to that point, like finding those players and understanding that they are there. But like I wouldn't know. Like I look at the amateur scene, like beyond the people that I talk to a decent amount, like Tyler or like players that he's played with around, or I watch streams of certain players. Like it's so hard to really kind of truly know who are the ones that really kind of stand out.
Yeah.
And to me, that's like the biggest issue with I mean, the league the way it's formed makes total sense, right? Like you don't see a professional NFL team playing against an amateur NFL team. Like you'll never see that. But like with esports, I feel like it's a little different. Like I can't truly value, like let's say Shotzzy played the Contenders League this year. How am I supposed to know how Shotzzy feats or really compares against a professional team? Like how do I know he can play at that level? Because it's like they're playing, the AMs are playing against the AMs. Granted, some of the pros, like the old pros, like Parasite and like those guys have competed for a while and are playing in that stage. But like, are those guys even still good enough to play at the pro level? Like, how do they really compare to the pro teams, and how does that stack against each other? And that's one of the difficulties, like I really see as a GM, is like, how am I really supposed to kind of look for talent like that when I really have no idea? Like, it's basically a risk, right? Like, I have to risk a player, a slot on my team, and money to see if that player really has it or not. And then and I have to possibly put one player on my team on the side, like even if let's say I picked up an AM as a substitute this year. Like, is he really going to get play time? I mean, not like unless a player is like sick or doesn't show up or breaks a hand or a nail or some shit. I don't know. But like beyond that, like he's not really going to have a chance to really prove out himself, right? Like it's just he's still going to be stuck in a Contenders League mindset, and then who knows where really that shows. Like, sucks.
I mean, to that point, it's like OD just said in the chat, especially considering, you know, the fact that like Challengers was hardly even streamed. I mean, I don't know if you guys know about the EU situation with Challengers, but the losers finals and winners finals over here was actually streamed by me on my channel. I actually contacted Bryce. So I had Bryce. I don't know. You should know Bryce Rambo, one of the old casters.
Yeah, of
Bryce
course.
Takala.
Yeah, yeah.
Bryce and
Big guy.
and a young guy called Infinity, who's a young upcoming caster. And I had those guys come and actually cast the losers finals and winners finals on my Twitch page because there was no committed coverage for it at all.
Yeah.
And I think to make that so much, when you add all these aspects together, the fact that there's no coverage, therefore there's no real eyes on the talent pool that is there, and then we're going into a year of 4v4, which means we're already cutting 20 to 25% of players away. How are they meant to even try and get a name in the mix? It's so difficult.
I'll be completely honest with you. Like, I wouldn't, like, if I was looking for talent and I wanted to watch amateur teams, I wouldn't look at an actual like live stream or match. I would look at their personal streams, and that would tell me a lot about the person,
Yeah.
how they sound when they communicate, how they play, what are they talking about. Like I think I would get a better grasp of how a player is than just by watching his team playing against another AM team, and I don't hear their communications or anything like that. Like, that to me is like way more beneficial. Like, players in the contenders are get more benefit out of streaming their own POVs and putting themselves out there as good players, and you can see their emotion. I mean, we were all watching the FaZe Academy team play. Remember that, Ant? We were watching the FaZe Academy, just like, dude, those guys like crumbled as a team. Like, you could just the tone, the voices, and the image you're getting from watching those players play, like just stream wise, just shows you like how not ready some of these players are to compete at the highest level. Like, granted, they're a great team, they're great individuals, they're great players, but just like you can feel it, like you can watch that, and you're like, dude, if you did any of that at the pro level, you'd be put to sleep on the spot. Like, you wouldn't stand a chance. And it's just like that to me is telling. Like, that's what delivers really my take as a GM. And like, just kind of, this is almost like a shout out to the AMs out there. Post your streams, post videos, talk about the game, show me that you're a smart individual and you understand what's going on. And then also that you have the skill by just kind of your gameplay speed. So
yeah. So I've got a question for you here, Ray, from Kev. He said, now, if you and Shotzzy were to 1v1 on Black Ops 2 with dual B23Rs, who's winning?
With dual B2, oh, he doesn't stand a chance. You kidding me? I was the master with dual pistols. Like, that was allowed back then. That's in the old days.
Well,
you could probably actually shoot back for once. Then.
Yeah, here you go. Hey, whoa. Yo, let's not let yo, Big. You need to post. You need to show the video of me playing Ant on, was it Krunker on the PC game?
Oh, no, don't show that.
Yeah, he's talking about not shooting back. My guy would put the rest.
Bro, I was on a keyboard. You think I know?
Yeah. No, none of that excuse.
Yeah, I saw that. I remember that. I do remember that. That's right.
When we got slept on the spot.
Yeah. So I mean,
multi-gamer platform my ass.
So, just going off roster speculation for next year, I mean, obviously, look, you guys might know a lot more than me. You might not. I've heard plenty of rumors so far. Obviously, I do speak to quite a few people in the community. Without naming any players on a franchise that you guys may already have intel of, which franchise do you guys feel is going to be the biggest threat towards stopping Dallas going back-to-back for the rings?
I think FaZe from the move benefited. I mean, I think New York benefited as well. I think those are the two, from teams that had moves and changes so far. I honestly like Toronto. Like, I don't know who their fourth is, but I'm pretty sure they kept Kleenex, Cammy, and Methods, right? Yeah. I honestly feel like Cammy and Kleenex are like two of the probably most underrated players this year. Like, Cammy's a superstar in my opinion. Like, he's one of the new. I mean, I don't know. I've heard he's been competing for a few years, but I personally didn't really hear or know of him until this year. And that dude's a beast. He just seems like a good human too, in general. He has a good head on his shoulders. Communication seems a little frantic for my liking, but just in general, like, he seems like a superstar in the making. Yeah. And I feel like Kleenex probably one of the most kind of what Shotzzy was describing as being annoying. Like, when we played against him, like, Kleenex is an annoying player to play against. Yeah. And that's we said in a good way.
Yeah. If you were to compare me to someone, I would 100% say Kleenex, because I've watched, the games in Toronto that they've played, like the last few events, and just watching every single time they went to his perspective was like so similar to the way I play. And
you mean cracked? Yeah, Kleenex absolutely cracked.
No, he's cracked, but he's also his understanding how to play his life as well. Like what we were talking about, like he's slippery, dude. He just never seems to die. Like, you'll put a few shots in him, and you're like, where did he go? And then you won't find out about him further. And that's the kind of skill trait that's like really useful. And I feel like that's a team that could have been a lot better this year if they kind of put him in the roster a little earlier and didn't really like stem to the base of it.
Yeah,
their
yeah.
players.
I mean, it's just so. I just think the next 3 to 4. Well, I think the next 3 months are going to be crazy for Call of Duty. I think we're going to see some started rosters. I think we're going to see some serious competition hopefully next year. I mean, we've seen some great competition this year, and I think looking at the likes of Florida and the changes they made, and then obviously Toronto coming toward the end of the year, and just there was so much great levels of competition. But I think at Champs, obviously, you guys just hit a certain switch that was way too powerful. I like to call it the Shotzzy water because the way this guy moves is terrifying, like I said. But
we just honestly like Champ was just kind of a stemming of like all the preparation we had, and just I felt like we were playing at a pretty high level all year. I just don't feel like we were always on the same page on certain things.
yeah,
And like even going like I'll be completely admitting like going into certain vetoes on certain maps in the mid part of the year, like we were like still questioning what was really our best maps.
So wait here, let me throw this out
Go
there
for
real
it.
quick. To be honest, I'm not gonna lie. You're probably not gonna believe me, but I still don't understand the veto process. Like, I have no idea
You don't have
how
to worry about it.
that
That's why
stuff
I'm here, brother.
works.
That's why I'm here, brother. You
Yeah,
don't have to worry about it.
yeah, 100%. I just wanted to throw that out there, but like, dude, it is absurd. Like, I'm over here, like, I remember I was like the team was just talking, yo, what's our vetoes and stuff like that. I'm over here like, yo, what is our vetoes? I have no idea. Like, dude, you should see my face.
I'll teach you.
you've just won $300,000 on a game that you don't even.
So we didn't really hit it, but I'll speak of the vetoes. Like, so I mean, Bacon, most of the people on the stream probably understand what Team A and Team B were this year. Like, the Team A technically had an advantage vetoes. So going to winners final because FaZe had the higher seed, they had the option, and they took Team B. They decided that they were going like literally. That is like the biggest. That was the most surprised I've been in Call of Duty or anything in life for probably 5-6 years. Like that was a curveball, and I'm like, I heard that and I was like, okay, and I muted and I went back to talk to teams like they took Team B, like this is good, right? Like, and honestly, like I just think they were so confident just beating us in any hard point, and like they probably saw us play or Toronto on Cave, and they're still thinking like because we played Cave against them 3 or 4 times this year, and we lost every time. I think they were at least half of our losses from the 0-6. And yeah, we were like, what the hell is this? So because we won the winners finals and like we got like obviously the advantage you get from Team B is really like, and I felt like they were a better Dom team, and to me that was the only reason why Team B made sense. Yeah, because I feel like their like option to win Dom was way better than ours, and they were a good search team, so they got their search pick map. So basically, they went up 2-1 in the series, and I felt like if we didn't win Cave, we'd probably get 3-0 there. But because we were so confident and so good on Cave, it gave us that opportunity. Like we've done it many times this year, come back from 2-1 from Team A because we knew we had a good side on map 4, and then we had our search map on map 5, and that's what ended up happening. Yeah. And then because we won that winners final, we had the option to take Team A in the finals, and Team A in the finals was like huge because the amount of maps you had to play. That's why the series look exactly the same. So like the finals, like the first 5 maps were the same, but the next 3 maps in that series were all maps that we wanted to play, and they didn't. Like we had Hackney Dom going. We had was it Ramaza Hardpoint, which is a map they vetoed all year, and we had a search on the map that we wanted to play. So it's just like everything was really kind of coming our way for that. So like that's why I said like winning, like that decision they made to me like was a huge instrument to us winning.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I've got as you've experienced before, Ray. I've got some tweets here.
Well, I got a question. For Ann actually before we go to tweets. Ann, who's our main AR next year?
Crim, 100%. What?
Crim? Okay. Yeah. I just want to hear from you. Yeah. No, not you. Yeah, I would say no.
Do you think Indra's gonna?
I don't know. I felt like it would be. I felt like it would be Ender. I mean, obviously Ender or Ian would be the 2 main ones, but I felt like Ender could be a pretty good main AR. Honestly,
he probably could, but I just don't think Ender would like. That's just not his play style. I feel that's like fair. He's
because he fell into it a few times this year.
Yeah. He likes it on sub maps, but I feel like. Ender to be comfortable 100%, he has to be like that flex player.
Right. That's fair.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes. To be continued.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose the Maniac, they always have quite a vocal point as well, like Clay's a pretty, it's not Clay, sorry, Crim's a pretty vocal guy. Especially, in and out of game, I can assume. So, yeah, I get the feeling Crim will be all over that Maniac role.
Probably, hopefully.
Yeah. So, and I've got a few tweets here, bro, from your teammates. I did the same thing with Ray last time. It's just to see how well you know the guys. So I'm going to read a tweet to you and then see if you can guess who tweeted it, okay? So the first tweet is, I just worked my fat ass out for an hour and a half, and now I'm off to McDonald's.
Yeah, that has to be Crim, 100%.
Ding, ding, ding. First guy. That's correct. Yeah. That was Crim 6 in 2015. I've got another one here. I've just seen an angel with a big booty.
Wait, what? That has to be Crim again. There's no way.
Bro, you know, yep, Crim. Yep, that's correct. Crim 2015.
There's no way in your Kyler saying that.
Right, yep, there we go. I got another one here. So I just had to get 2 shots in my ass because I'm fully covered head to toe in hives.
That's Crim again, 100%.
No. See, this is a curveball. It's Clayster. I know he's an ex-teammate now, but it's Clayster. 2017.
Wait,
Right.
what did you say? What was the tweet?
Just had to get 2 shots in my ass because I'm fully covered head to toe in hives.
Hives are like, he basically had a reaction to something, like allergic reaction.
What, like bees or something?
No, hives. I mean, they're kind of like they look like bee bites, but they're just like little bumps that show up on your skin when you have a reaction to something.
I never even know that.
See, I'm like a fucking dad at this kid. Dude. I'm teaching him things up.
Bro, I still like, even now, even this many months on, I still can't get over that clip of the knife and fork, bro. I was just like,
yeah,
We were talking about it.
I'm not even.
I'm
Like,
funny, dude. No. Listen, wait, hold on. I was laughing because of the fact that Inder cuts his steak with forks. Like, I thought mine was bad. Bro, I thought mine was bad, but his was worse.
Bro, my man Inder never had a steak. I don't think until that point. Like, I mean, like his family's Hindu or whatever, so I'm assuming that like red meat's not huge out there. Like they do a lot of chicken and a lot of pork.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude. That was an experience. I was like, I thought I was trolling the whole time. I'm like, I'm going along with this, but I'm like half trolling because I'm pretty sure he's trolling me back.
Yeah.
But then after the fact, you're like, wait, he was actually serious.
Right, I got another tweet here. So I'm sure you guys know the Christmas song "Let It Snow." You know.
Yeah.
This tweet here is, "Let it snow will always be le tits now in my mind."
Wait, can it be like teammates as in like Ray as well?
No, so it can only be between Clay and everyone else.
I feel like someone that would go that deep into that would have to be Porter, 100%. Like,
No.
who else would say
I think it's Inder, dude. I think it's Illy.
No, both wrong. It's Clayster, 2018. Yeah. Right.
Sounds like a Porter tweet.
Like that. Yeah, it sounds like a Porter tweet.
And I got another one here. So I played like poop that series, but thankful my teammates are young gods.
Oh, yeah. Kyler, hopefully.
No, sir.
Crim again? That's gotta be Crim.
No, it's Clay, 2015. And isn't it funny how it's relevant 5 years on? This guy's literally just out here building young gods.
Yeah, no, he's
Yeah.
got a lot of young guys, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's my little Twitter part done. I've just got one final question for you guys. I mean, obviously this off season's it's quite a lengthy one. You know, we're talking 3 months pre-release, and then until the season starts, who knows? I mean, February, late January. So quite a long off season. What are you guys doing to kind of fill that time and keep the team bonding?
We haven't done anything so far, honestly.
Well, COVID sucks. So I mean, if there wasn't COVID, we'd be hanging out and stuff. But
Yeah.
right now, I've been just playing old CODs, chows and all that good stuff, and just spending time with my family until the next season.
I mean, the next season really starts when the new game comes out. Even the beta, like that's like work for us really to kind of get our hands on and get a feel for what's going to be going on and what we feel like is going to be the best way to approach the game. Like, and that's like crazy. Like I missed it, but I also hated it when I was working at Sledgehammer and different aspects of video game. Like being a game developer for the most part, typically it's really like kind of like a 9 to 5. You don't really have to worry about work when you're outside of work. Like you're still thinking about things, but not to the extent of where you are when you're a professional.
Yeah.
When you're in a competitive aspect of it, and like even now, like to this day, like I'm still thinking every day about how I can improve as a coach and how I can improve as like a communicator to my team, and really kind of what did I do this year that could have been better, and so on and so forth. And all the players are basically like kind of what Ant's saying. Like he's already playing old games, trying to get a feel for what may come, and most players in the community do that. So. Yeah, it's like the off-season term is thrown around a lot, but it's never truly an off-season. Like there's always preparation, just like professional athletes. they have their workouts and they do stuff during the offseason to make sure they're prepared for.
Yeah. I've got a question here for you from the chat from Bryce Tacular. Question for Ray: when the world returns to normal after COVID, what do you think about pre-lands and that kind of practice?
So this is one thing for me, but a lot of people are like super. I mean, people hate showing, like, for example, like streaming scrims, for example, like Chicago did it all year. I feel like very few teams watch go and like actually benefit from that. Like I'm still a strong believer in my way of thinking is like, if our team is the most prepared team and we know what we're doing, it doesn't really matter what other people think of us or what we're gonna know, like unless it's something specific. But if we generally play the game properly, we're gonna then it's skill that comes into play, and then we're gonna be able to win games.
Yeah.
And I think like anything you can do to prepare your team is beneficial. So like pre-lands, like whatever it is to crap, we have and I was actually thinking about this, like we have the Chicago teams basically all here. Like granted, I think Formal was still in LA and then Illy was north in Toronto, but like what if we played Chicago in the finals and we had like a few days to prepare? Could we just all went to the Hex quarters or our office and just like actually have a LAN final, quote unquote? Yeah. And like that's something that I feel like a lot of people don't take advantage of. Like it's just like we have them close by. Like there's no reason why we shouldn't be like if next year has LAN events, we shouldn't be preparing with a team like that. Granted, it sucks when it's like two top teams because like if you expect to play in a team in the finals, you don't want to practice too much. But again, I feel like there's like us preparing for what we're doing is, in my opinion, it's always going to be the best strategy and the best way to go about preparation. And then you go, and then like later in the year when you want to know about specifics, like we did with FaZe, we see how to do certain things, then we talk about. But like I can like basically tell you beyond the breakoffs for hard points, we didn't really look at what FaZe did in like respawn maps. Like we had a general idea of how to play the game and properly, and we felt like that was going to be plenty to beat them as long as we did what we had to do right, and it showed as being like kind of like the best way to go about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that pretty much brings us toward the end of the podcast, guys. A massive thank you to you, Ray, and to you, Ant, and once again, a huge congratulations on your success this year. I am very excited to see what Dallas Empire can produce next year. And obviously, I know with talents like yourselves amongst the ranks, another chip is never far away, really. Viewers, if you guys tuned in late or were only able to catch moments, don't worry, you can catch this episode and all of us on Spotify. Just make sure you go follow my Twitter at Big Boy Bake to keep up to date with future podcast announcements and more. Just so you guys know, up next we've got Martin Boyle, who's a professional footballer from the Scottish League on Sunday, and I believe on Monday we'll be speaking to Trey, now ex-Royal Ravens player, FA, to try and talk to him about his journey this year and where we might be seeing him go next. Other than that, guys, again, thank you so much for joining me.
Of course. And one more thing. How would you rate Ant's performance today on the podcast? Out of 10?
Bro, I'd give him a solid 8, It's pretty good.
All right. That's good. What?
That's improvement. That's improvement. That's improvement.
For real, yeah. I mean,
considering the London interview, that was probably like a 2.2, I would say.
He didn't, he didn't shy.
He's come a long way. I like it. I give him props. I stand by that 8 out of 10.
That was good. He didn't shy away from any questions. There's definitely personality. So he's doing well, man. He's good. Especially, because he's still so young, so much to learn and so much to go through in terms of media and stuff. So, yeah, really good, man. I enjoyed that. Thanks, guys.
All right. Well, thanks for having us, and I'm sure we'll be back.
Oh, definitely. And one thing for next year, try and learn the veto process. Just maybe.
Yeah, I did.
I'll teach you. I didn't do my job properly, apparently. But.
Yeah, I didn't want to be. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want to be embarrassed. It was too late into the season to even ask.
Well, you can be a little embarrassed now. You're good. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't care now, because
I'm just messing.
Once I don't care.
Yeah,
you're good.
The bank account's looking pretty healthy. Right. Good night, guys. Thank you so much. Peace.